Welcome everyone. Today we are going to learn voice change. The voice change is categorized into the three kinds of tenses: the present tense, the past tense, and the future tense. These three tenses are further subdivided into four categories: indefinite or simple, continuous, perfect, and perfect continuous. Like this. So present tense, we have simple present, present continuous, present perfect, and present perfect continuous. For past tense, again we have simple past, past continuous, past perfect, and past perfect continuous. In the same manner, we have future tense, so simple future, future continuous, future perfect, and future perfect continuous. Now note, since we are studying voice change, we will not be learning one subcategory, which is the perfect continuous tense. Perfect continuous tense is not used in voice change. Okay, so we will be learning only the three subcategories, that is the first one, indefinite, continuous, and perfect. We will not learn perfect continuous tense in voice change. We move on to the slide. So perfect continuous tense we are not going to learn. Present perfect continuous tense, past perfect continuous tense, future perfect continuous tense. We are not going to learn the last category, perfect continuous tense. I hope it is clear. Now the kinds of voice. Now there are generally two kinds of voices. One is active voice, another is passive voice. Now what is an active voice? In active voice, the subject is an active doer, or in other words, the action is done by the subject. Now you might wonder, what is the meaning of a subject? The meaning is quite simple. Subject is somebody who does the action. Okay? Now let us continue with the example. As we have already learned in the previous slide, what is the meaning of a subject? Subject is somebody who does the action. Take this example. The lion kills the deer. Now can you tell who is doing the action here? If your answer is the lion, you are correct. That means the lion here is doing the action. What is the action? The action of killing. This action of killing is done by the lion. The lion is doing the action on whom? The lion is doing the action on the deer. So the deer here is the target of the lion. Okay, so the lion is doing the action on whom? On the deer. So the lion is the subject and the deer becomes the object. We will learn about the object in the next few examples. Look here, the lion is doing the action on whom? On the deer. So the deer here is the object. Now what do you mean by object? Object here means target. Okay, so the target of the lion is who? The target of the lion is the deer. So the deer becomes the target or the object. Let us move on with the definition of passive voice. Now in active voice we have learned that the subject is important, but in passive voice the object becomes more important than the subject. So in passive voice the object is very important, okay, not the subject. In active voice the subject is important, and in passive voice the object is important. Let us take the previous example. The lion kills the deer. Okay, so the lion we learn is the subject and the deer is the object. Okay, you can see here also that subject is the lion and object is who? Object is the deer. Object we have learned, object means target also. Let's move on. So the lion kills the deer, the lion is the subject, and the deer becomes the object. As I said that in passive voice, the object is more important. Therefore, we will put the object in the beginning of the sentence. So we can write it in this way also. If we have to change active voice into passive voice, so in passive voice we know that the object is more important. So whatever is important comes in the beginning. So object we will put in the beginning. So we can write it in this way. Just check this example below. The deer is killed by the lion. Look at the sentence here. The lion kills the deer. So if the deer is the object, so the deer, you see, we have put in the beginning. Okay, the deer here was at the end. Now the deer comes in the beginning because this is passive voice. And in passive voice, which is important or what is important? The object is more important. So object, the deer, we are putting in the beginning, and subject goes at the end. Okay, the lion is the subject. Here the lion is the subject. So the subject comes at the end. So the deer in the beginning, the object in the beginning, and the subject, the lion, goes at the end. So the deer is killed by the lion. Now how this particular sentence is formed, we will learn little later, not now. You can take note in your copies. You can pause the video also. Let us move on. Now let us study some of the general rules. Now the general rules for changing from active to passive voice are as below. So these general rules are actually when you change from active to passive, not passive to active. Passive to active voice we will learn later. As for today, we will do only sentences that changes from active to passive voice. Okay, just you can look at the examples below, the rules below. So the object takes the place of the subject. Okay, subject and object gets interchanged. Next is the subject, as we have seen earlier also, the subject is either mentioned at the end or is deleted. Now how subject sometimes gets deleted, we will learn that later, not now. We'll move on systematically. Here, as for now, just keep this thing in mind. Just remember this, that the subject is generally put at the end. I'll just move to the previous slide. Here you see, subject, the lion, comes at the end. Okay, so the general rule is that subject generally goes at the end and object comes in the beginning when you change a sentence from active to passive. Now we use the past participle form of the verb, that is the third form of the verb. Okay, the verb is divided into three forms. I'll show you a little later in this video. I'll show you a little later of the three forms of verbs along with some of the examples also, but not now. As for now, you can just take down, you can just write down these rules in your copies. Okay, we move on. The preposition by, okay, the preposition by is used, and not only by but some other prepositions are also used sometimes. These prepositions are to, with, at, or in also. Okay, so not only by, generally we use by, but sometimes we use these four prepositions also. The prepositions already attached with the verb is not deleted. We will learn that later, not now. You can just take down the rules, just write down the rules. We will learn this systematically. Okay, now active to passive changing. How to change from active to passive voice? You have already written the general rules. Now we shall study under different heads. Okay, under different separate tenses. So we'll begin with simple present tense, or we also call present indefinite tense. Let us study the voice change systematically and according to tense. So the first tense that we have is simple present tense or present indefinite tense. Let's start. So these are rules for simple present tense. You can write down these rules. Okay, you take out your copies and write down these rules. You can pause the video for some times and write down the rules. So as I have already told you, interrogative sentence we will learn little later, okay? According to the first formula, object plus is or am or are. Since we are doing simple present tense, we use either is or am or are, okay? Is for singular, am is used with I, like I am. We never say I is or I are. And are is for plural sentences. And then verb third form plus by plus subject. Sometimes in place of by we use other prepositions also, like I told you already, either we use to or with or at or in, okay? So let us for the time being learn only assertive sentences, sentences ending with a full stop, okay? Please write down all the rules. You can pause the video. We'll move on to the next slide. Now let us learn some examples from active to passive voice. Now this is an example of active voice, okay? The sentence is Suresh sings a song. Now we change it into passive voice. So in passive voice, a song is sung by Suresh. So you can see that Suresh is the subject. Suresh is subject, okay? Song, a song is object. Sings is verb, which is in simple present tense. I already told you in the beginning, we'll be learning sentences under simple present tense only. Now you have to identify the verb, okay? So look for the verb. You will have to know in which tense the verb is. So it is very important for you to know in which tense the verb is. Now because I've already told you that we are doing sentences on simple present tense, so you know that this particular verb is in present tense, simple present tense. But later on when we learn all the tenses, it will not be separately given in the exam, okay? So you have to identify in which tense the verb is, okay? Now since it is in simple present tense, this word sings, this verb sings is in simple present tense, so we will use either is or am or are. Is used for singular one. You can see that a song. So if you bring a song in the beginning, according to the rule, object comes in the beginning, okay? Please write down the formula, okay? Object comes in the beginning. Now we brought object in the beginning, a song. Now a song, one song, okay? So it is singular. Is used for singular, one, okay? So a song means one song. So it's very clear that we will put is here, okay? So a song is, why sung, S-U-N-G, sings becomes sung. Why? I've already told you we generally have three forms of verb and we change the verb into the third form, past participle. So sing is the first form, sang is the second form, and sung is the third form. So we will be using the third form only in the entire voice change, okay? Present, past, future, whatever it is, we will only use the third form. Then according to the formula, you've already written it in your copy. Look at the first rule. According to the formula, after verb third form comes the word by. So we put by, and then finally we add the subject. So object plus is, am, are. We use is here, okay? Then we use the verb third form, then we use preposition by, and then finally comes the subject, okay? So is we use for singular and are we use for plural, and because a song is singular, so we are using is here. Let's go to another example. Let's learn another example. Active voice. Sentence is he scolds me. Now in passive voice, what we do is that I am scolded by him. Now why I am? Generally we bring object in the beginning, so the sentence should have been me scolded by him. That does not make any sense, right? So here me is the object. We all know that me is the object in the active voice. Okay, so when you bring me in the beginning, it becomes I. So me, when you have to bring in the beginning, okay, me when you have to bring in the beginning, it becomes I. And because we are doing present tense, so according to the rule we use am, because along with I have already told you, along with I we use am. We don't say I is scolded, or we don't say I are scolded. These are broken English. So we use this with the personal pronoun I, and because I is singular, we use the word am. So, and we are doing present tense, so according to the rule we will use am. So it becomes I am. So me becomes I am. Scolds, scold, scolded, scolded. So third form is scolded, and then we use by, and then he becomes him. Remember, he also will become him. You cannot write I am scolded by he. That does not make any sense at all. Okay, so he becomes him. She will become her. I am scolded by her. Say this example is she scolds me, so I am scolded by her. Okay, so he becomes him. If she, it will become her. Let's move on. Sometimes in sentences you find double objects or extra words. Okay, now what to do with those objects, with the second object and the extra words? So sometimes there are two objects or other extra words in a sentence. So one is a direct object, the other is indirect object. Now check this example in the next page. Active voice. She plucks flowers in the garden. Now the answer, passive voice, is flowers are. See, flowers plural, so we will use are here. Okay, so flowers are pluck, pluck, plucked, plucked. So the third form is plucked. In the garden by her. Now she becomes her. So in the middle we have put in the garden. Let us analyze how. So in the above example, she is subject, we already know. Flowers is object and it is plural also. However, we find some extra words. What are the extra words? Leave out she plucks flowers, just cover it. We have extra words in the garden. Now what will you do with in the garden? Will you throw it away? No. You have to use in the garden where? Let us learn. So remember, whenever there is an extra word, we put the extra word immediately after the verb in the passive voice. So here you see the word in the garden. Where have we used? What is the location? See, after the verb. So flowers are plucked. Plucked is verb. Then we put this extra word in the garden. So in the garden we are putting after the verb. In the garden. Then we use by, and then she becomes, as I told you in the earlier example also, if there's he, it becomes him. So there is she here, it becomes her. Okay, so she becomes her. So extra word we are putting after the verb. So the words in the garden is put after the verb plucked. Okay, remember, when there is an extra word, when there is an extra object, or when there are extra words outside the first object, outside the direct object, we will put that extra object or those extra words, like in the garden here for example, we put it after the verb. So here the verb is plucked, so we put the extra words after the verb. So verb comes in three forms. Okay, as I already told you, let's learn the form of verbs. I'll not explain in detail. So verbs come in three forms. Present form, we also call present form first form. Okay, past form, which is also called second form, and past participle form, which we call third form also. Okay, so just look below. We use the past participle or third form, as I've already told you, third form of the verb when we convert from active to passive voice. So we use the past participle. So our concern, our headache is only with the third form. We will not use present form and past form. We will only use the third form, the past participle form, when we change from active to passive voice. Okay, you can check out these examples. These are few examples of the forms of verbs, say present past and past participle. There are two columns actually, present past past participle. Here also we have present past past participle. So if present is beg, past becomes begged, past participle also begged. Okay, then we come down, hug becomes hugged and hugged, empty becomes emptied, emptied. Okay, win becomes won, won, sing, we have learned sing, sing becomes sang, sung, know becomes knew, known, keep becomes kept, kept. Okay, go becomes went, gone. So present is go, past is went, past participle is gone. Okay, you can study these examples, and you can check out for some more examples. You can study more examples of verb forms from the internet or from your grammar books also. If you want to go through the internet, then you can type forms of verbs and you'll get a whole list. Okay, now remember, we have not learned interrogative sentences yet, and there are some certain explanations that I have to do. We shall learn them in the next class. Okay, so you can try these exercises on the basis of the explanations that I have made from active to passive voice. So these are the 7 exercises that you can do as a homework, and you can send it to me in the comment box, or you can WhatsApp me also your answers. Thank you so much.